Welcome, citizen, to another Starcraft Nation broadcast. I'm your host, Venerati, and in today's cast, we're going to be doing another kind of critical overview. This time, though, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on battle awareness and the importance of knowing when to attack, when not to attack, battle assessment, kind of tuning yourself in to look at a situation and to be able to tell yourself, I can't engage this, maybe I want to engage this, or I'm totally about to steamroll this kid. And really, whether or not you want to, just whether you feel like it's a good situation. And also, once you identify that, how to make it a positive situation for yourself, because you want to engage on your terms. Because if you don't engage on your terms, you are definitely going to be found wanting and most likely will lose the situation unless your opponent completely doesn't have the right unit composition. Because on top of just being aware of the situation, unit composition plays a huge part of that too. Because if you see a bunch of marauders, you know that you do want to stop producing a lot of zealots, especially if you already have a lot of zealots. You know that if you have a lot of zealots, you might want to go ahead and get the legs charged, or make them charge lots. Get that upgrade. You know that you want to get immortals, or you want to get air units, or something like that. And inversely, as a Terran player, if you see a lot of immortals in the base, you know that you want to stop producing those marauders, and you want to go marines, or you want to get something else that will give you the advantage. You know that you don't want to go hellions or anything like that. And definitely just give yourself a good idea of what your opponents bring to the table, and try also to conceal what you have. You want to shut down the scouts. You want to deny the scans, and you really can't deny scans per se, but you definitely want to, put, if you're trying to sneak some tech in, put your star bases over here, or I'm sorry, your starports, or whatever it is, the key aspect of your build. If you're trying to put a ruse on and try to fool your opponent, stick it off to the side, because you don't realize how often people will just kind of take a glimpse in a base and then run away thinking they know what's going on. That definitely can play to your advantage. Also, timing. You definitely don't want to sit there and just build zealots for 10 minutes in the game, because if your opponent hasn't attacked you in 10 minutes, he's probably teching, and it's really not going to work out well for your zealots. And also, you want to probe, and you want to kind of show aggression against your opponent. You don't want there to be this lull, because right now we're 6 minutes in. There really hasn't been any sort of engagement. We do see Move actually moving out. Oh, and I didn't introduce the players. We will have Move playing as the Terran, and we will have Ronald Reagan once again playing as that Protoss. But if you're going to have these long durations where you just don't have anything going on, as a Terran player, you can, if you're not going to use your factory, you can pick your factory up, run it around. You can go have a Marine run out there and figure out what's going on. Move has done a good job of occupying this Zelnaga tower. This is going to allow him to know if something's coming out of the base, as it will pretty much catch anything that comes out. You can run it across the ridge line right here, but it's pretty doubtful that someone's going to go and actually do that. Both players, well, actually, Ronald Reagan already grabbing his expansion. At this amount of time, it's not a bad thing at all. You definitely want to grab the expansion if you haven't done anything. Though I'd like to see a forge down. If you have this few production facilities, I mean, we're 7 minutes in, you only have 2 gates. You haven't attacked. I would like to see a forge. I'd like to see some sort of tech coming out of them. Put down some cannons. Do something. As he hasn't really scouted. I mean, neither of our players have really scouted the bases, since, I mean, yeah, they don't really have a good idea of what's going on. A Robo Bay, get an Observer. Observers are your best friends as a Protoss player. Though right now, Move does see this force coming out here. He will be able to engage it, and he will be able to take this force on, just for the fact there are so many Marauders. Not really sure why he left that one Marauder back there, but Ronald Reagan reinforcing, but actually moving. I believe that was an attack up to man. He's not even really microing his units, and the reinforcements would have allowed him to overtake this force, but instead he just kind of moved forward and just attacking things at random, really not paying attention to what his guys are doing. That's the only thing I can guess. And, you know, this isn't a personal science, but you have to pay attention to what your guys are doing, because when you're going up against the Terran and you have a lot of Zealots, you're going to expect Marauders. I mean, at least I would expect Marauders or something that's going to be able to counter those guys. And that was really a huge ball dropped by Ronald Reagan, because at one point, you know, he had the forces to outdo Moof. And Moof retreated. He was paying attention and moved his units back. And as you saw, those other Zealots just kind of walk by like, all right, you know, y'all have fun. Y'all take them on by yourself. I hope you're all a bunch of heroes. That being said, of course, depending on what level play you are, you know, there's certain things you want to get down first. You know, if you are the bronze and silver, you want to get your macro figured out before you really want to focus on your micro. But that being said, something like that, you want to keep your force as one cohesive group. Because when you split your force, and it's not a completely overwhelming force, then you're going to get rolled and wrecked, just like we saw that happen right there. As a Moof, I mean, as look at the loss tab, you know, Moof really didn't lose that much, whereas Ronald Reagan lost everything, pretty much. And Ronald Reagan was able to actually stall the production of this command center there for a little while, but it really wasn't that pivotal of a move. Now, one thing Ronald Reagan is doing quite well is getting the harvester count out. Now, this is good. He's got an economy. And what I said before, you know, you want to focus on your macro as a lower tier player. You know, someone who has a strong economy and has strong macro skills, 9 times out of 10 will go ahead and be able to overwhelm their opponent, even though their opponent might have a slightly better micro capabilities. At that level, it's really not going to be that much of a difference, and you will just be able to completely overwhelm them, even though you might not be that great with the micro. So supply locked, that's pretty common. We do see 2 pylons going down. Everyone does it. I do it still sometimes. It's not a position you want to be in, though. Going back to production tab, we do see the ground weapons level 1 coming out, and Blink. Blink is really going to be very important with the Stalkers. Not necessarily so important at this level, as you're not going to see really a high utilization of Blink. Not like you see with Nazgul or someone like that, as Nazgul will use Blink Stalkers to completely overwhelm Idra at MLG Dallas. But we do have the forces coming up here, and as you saw right there, it's a pretty common mistake, but since Stalkers are quicker than Zealots, the Zealots get stuck behind the Stalkers, and they don't get to actually deploy in an effective manner until all the Stalkers are dead, and at that point, it's not really that effective. 2 things you can do to figure that out is, first, before you actually engage, just kind of separate your forces and then attack, or you can hotkey them to where you can constantly keep your Stalkers behind and make sure that you send your Zealots in first. And that's really going to be important, because those Zealots don't do you any good when they're sitting there butting heads behind these Stalkers. That's just a complete waste of their role. I mean, not only are they great meat shields, but they do a fair amount of DPS. The problem with the Zealots is the fact that they have to get in contact with things. And you see, with the charge, they're a lot more effective, but still not super effective against the Marauders. And also, especially when you have the Stalkers behind them, they become more effective just because you allow the Stalkers DPS. Stuck grenade there, by the way. Pretty awesome. I don't know how long that's going to stay there, but either way, pretty cool little glitch. Also, something we just saw there twice, actually, is trickling forces in. You don't want to do that. You want to keep your forces as a cohesive group. If you come up against this bio ball that Moof has, you don't want to sit there and throw 10 units in, 10 units in, 5 units in. You want to throw it in as, you know, you've got 30 units, and boom, here we go, you know, head to head. You might not even win, but at least you're using those units in an effective manner. Also, since we see Ronald Reagan actually walking his units up here as Protoss, one of the key things about your race is the fact that you have warp gate technology, and you can warp units across the field. That's something that Ronald Reagan hasn't done. Ronald Reagan, though, once again, he knows that Moof has more forces than this. Like, I don't know what he's thinking at this point. I don't know if he just wants to keep Moof on the back pedal, But, yeah, you just don't want to do that. It's just such bad, it's just bad juju, period. Ooh. Good tea. Well, with that being said, you know, we're just going to see Ronald Reagan continue to trickle these forces in. That being said, Ronald Reagan can actually kind of afford it because he does have such an economic need. And also, I do want to give props to Ronald Reagan. He is continuing to expand. This is something you generally see people get stuck on, is they get stuck on that natural expansion and they just don't do anything. Although we did see lazy probes. Oh, but what is this move? Actually being aggressive. This is the first time we've seen move being aggressive. Even bringing an SCV along. So he will be dropping in here. You stimming and going for the mineral line. This is good. Not choosing to actually attack that assimilator first. You want to go ahead and grab these probes and try to kill as many as possible. We'll be attempting to snipe the Nexus. Now, these the stemmed Marauders are highly effective against